Welcome back to ARC Florida. As parents prepare for Halloween, Florida State Senator Lauren Book, the founder and CEO of the nonprofit Lauren's Kids, is here to share tips and resources to ensure your children stay safe. Senator Book, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Good morning. I'm ready to talk about spooktacular safety tips.
So, when parents are planning for a safe Halloween for their children, what are some of the things they should be focusing on?
So I think one of the things that, as parents, we're making sure that they have the best Halloween costumes. They're the most fun. Oftentimes we're changing those costumes 2, 3, and 4 times. But it's also, how do we talk about those safety routes? Where are we going to trick or treat? What does that look like? Oftentimes parents don't know that they can register their address with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. So they know if there's a sex offender living in their neighborhood, or if you're going to somebody else's neighborhood to trick or treat, you can check out that address and see who's in the neighborhood. Those are really important things to do when you're out trick or treating. Make a plan. One of the things that we talk about often, which is getting permission, the location, the names and numbers of the kids or families you're trick or treating with, and the activity that you're doing. Making sure that we plan a route so that we know that we're going to houses that are safe, that we talk through if there's a house with no lights on, that we don't go to that house. That we don't go into somebody's house. I remember doing door-to-doors and my daughter would love to run in somebody's house. Talking about boundaries that are safe. Always, as we did when we were kids, don't just open candy and eat it on the way so mom and dad can look at it. Don't eat some of those homemade treats that maybe are being handed out. But those are also those safety tips that we have to look at and talk about when making sure that kids are having fun and staying safe out there on Halloween.
Yeah, Senator Book, you mentioned, maybe going trick-or-treating in a neighborhood that's not yours, that you're not familiar with. Do you have any other tips, precautions that parents should take before, letting their kids go into these neighborhoods?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really important, again, to have some of those safety conversations, engage where your kids are, because it's not just about Halloween safety, it's about all around safety. And actually, before we even get to that place, making sure that that is a safe place and that your child is ready to have those and have that kind of freedom, if you will. So it's having those conversations, playing the what if game. What if you're trick or treating and you see a house that's not lit? Do you go in? Or what if somebody asks you that the next house is pretty far? Do you want to jump in this car to go down the block? Guessing and assessing where your children are and having some of those conversations are really important all year round, but particularly now, gauging where your children are, again, making sure that that neighborhood is safe, that the houses in that neighborhood are safe, that they know who they're trick-or-treating with. We talk about making sure that you have a light or some of those glow sticks, making sure that maybe the group that you're with has the same glow sticks because it's kind of dark, things don't always look the same. It's making sure that your children feel comfortable and can use their voice when they're in a situation where they don't feel safe. If they're in a situation where they don't feel safe, do they know how to use their I mean business voice? Looking at somebody to say, stop, I don't feel safe, and where to go and how to access help. Those are really important conversations to have with your children. Again, not just for Halloween, all year round, but really important to have those conversations now.
Yeah, I've got little kids. I still enjoy going out with them and taking them, trick-or-treating. Mm-hmm. We all go together, as a family. But I am scared about when they are going to be old enough and they're going to be able to go out with their friends. These are important conversations to be having with those age kids before they go out on their own, without the parents with them.
Absolutely. And again, when those kids are older, maybe they have digital devices of their own so you can track where they're going. I know I can't keep track of my keys. Sometimes my kids are all over the place. I have 2 that are 7 years old and one goes this way, one goes that way, and they tend to divide and conquer. So making sure that maybe you have air tags on their Halloween costumes, their candy bags, different things that you can do. They're very inexpensive, just to make sure that you have eyes on them, that you're going out. Again, trunk or treat is something that's very different than what we had when we were growing up, to do instead of if you're in a neighborhood where maybe you don't want to go door to door. Those are all different things that parents and families can talk about and do to make sure that kids are having a spooktacular time.
Yeah, a lot of great tips there. Senator Book, before we let you go, any other little pieces of advice you think parents should know this holiday season?
Again, making sure that you plan a route. Check out our website, lawrencekids.org, for some of those safety tips online so that you can make sure that you plan a route that's safe. Check out that neighborhood that you're going to be trick-or-treating in. Register your address if you haven't already with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement to make sure the people that are in your community, if you don't know them, and make sure that you have those conversations, play the what-if game, have some fun with your kids, and have a great time.
All right, Senator Book, thank you so much for your time. You have a good, happy Halloween as well.
Happy Halloween.
All right, we'll be right back on ARC Florida.